For lack of any real content on the channel lately, I thought I'd just show you around my home network. So somewhere down there, we have a single 75 ohm coaxial cable coming in. Armstrong's Magic one-wire infinite possibility thing. I think they're kind of a local company, but cable TV service. As you can see, the lighting's not good in here, but we have one line coming in from the outside, and that just goes off to these splitters. So this one, and it's got a filter here of sorts, just goes off to the TV, and there are a number of those, including one that sends the same wire out to Network Central, which is right up here in my bedroom. Now then, that wire I talked about earlier simply comes in through this jack, and what's nice about this is if I ever decided to put a TV in here, I could just put another splitter. I could put one behind there and have a dual jack wall plate, or just have one wire discretely running up with another splitter. Got it coiled up here because I couldn't be bothered to make a new cable, but it just goes into this box, which is the cable modem provided by Armstrong. So basically, the Magic one wire comes in here, and out the other end is just a regular old RJ45 connector providing regular old Ethernet. So you could plug just this into the back of any regular old computer and it would work. But in this case it snakes up and goes into a separate wireless router. Excuse the poor lighting. So basically, this is where the real magic happens, of taking that one connection and splitting it not only across 4 different lines, but also providing the wireless connection throughout the entire household that we primarily use. And for the most part, that's really all the further it needs to go. And I see there are also a couple of telephone lines that snake around and plug in there, and we also have our additional cables. And that runs Ethernet to various places of the house where Wi-Fi might not be accessible, or you might have a device that needs to be hardwired. And I could connect further switches to increase that, but at the moment there are none. And just a couple of network-attached storage drives connected again to the router. Now, this is actually a pretty simple network setup. Basically, we got the internet connection through the modem, and then it just goes to this, and it just serves as one big Wi-Fi antenna, and really everything else is just kind of a special purpose. And this is probably what a typical home network setup looks like, including the bad lighting. But we have this jack here, not mounted to the wall for some reason. And, oh, wow, you can't see that at all, can you? But we do have the first phone line coming here. And then the first and second Ethernet connections. Now, the first of each goes into the PlayStation 2. Which, sadly, I've never been able to use online because they've already shut down the servers. It doesn't use a unified service like the PlayStation Network, but there is a Sony-specific authentication system that is no longer operational, which really sucks. And then I just have another hardwire connection to the PlayStation 3, which only has Wi-Fi G in it. Now, most people would say N is the bare minimum you need in today's day and age. They also have AC and whatever the heck else they have out now. For most purposes, you'll be surprised what you can reasonably do with wireless G, especially since the internet speed we have isn't even fast enough to take full advantage of G. Of course, those are the top stated specs and not the actuality of things. The third line runs all the way to this weird white little bubble, and if you're a fan of a particular brand, you might have already guessed what this is, but it is, in fact, a first-generation Apple AirPort Extreme. Now, the 8-Bit guy actually did a pretty good video on why these can still be useful today and a good bargain for the price. Definitely good value if you find them, because, I mean, they are old, and it is actually one of the earliest wireless G, but it does seem to work. And I have this, again, set up in those most basic configurations. It's just really extending the network, and I could and do plan to install a proper antenna to further extend it, because honestly, the Asus model I had upstairs really sucks wirelessly. But this one is supposed to be pretty good, but antenna should make it even better. And the last Ethernet and telephone lines are just coiled up here really for future use. I do plan to clean up the basement and do some things with it, same with that telephone line, but as of right now, they're really just there. I figured while I was installing the wall plate, might as well hook them up. One of the advantages of unfinished basement ceilings, you don't even need to worry about snaking the wire through and making it pretty, as you can see the way it just kind of comes out there. And one last thing to note is that while this might look like quite a bit of guff, it really is pretty simple, not only in the hardware, but how all the computers are networked together. There's a lot of things with setting up, home groups and, just sharing and file servers, and really I don't use any of that in my home because there's really not that many people actually need something like that. I pretty much have one primary laptop that I use, and everything else is just kind of toy computers to occasionally mess around with, like the old XP machine, my spare Windows 7 laptop, and I don't really need them connected together to share any data that I can't already just share through my Google Drive and whatnot. And then there's my parents' computer and the Amazon TV and all that stuff, and there's no need for them to have access to each other. I do have one wireless printer that just connects to the network and works with each one of them. Don't need a dedicated server. Even these drives are not really doing anything. They're just kind of there, and I can access them whenever I want, but they're not set up to do anything in particular. No media sharing, no backups. I can use them to share media with, say, the PS3, but, that's not really specifically what they're set up as. So, really, it's pretty simple. And you gotta admit, this just looks damn cool. See you next time.